Welcome to the Umbundu language, a Bantu language of Angola, Africa. Umbundu language is a tonal language that features 18 grammatical genders and an extremely complex verbal system. What follows is a detailed grammatical description of this language. The Umbundu language is spoken by a few million people in western Angola, as shown here in this linguistic map of the Republic of Angola, a former Portuguese colony in southwestern Africa. The Bantu language group encompasses most of the African continent south of the equator, as shown here in this brown area on the map. The Portuguese colony of Angola became independent from Portugal in 1975. It is the second largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world after Brazil. Here's a number of useful, commonly used sentences in Umbundu. Wakolapo, wakolipo, how are you? Ndakolapo, I am fine. Twakolapo, we are fine. Overe, what about you? Ukombe weya, welcome. Literally it means the guest has arrived. What's your name is Velye Olonduko Vene, which is a more formal phrasing, or Hele Onduko Yove, an informal way to ask somebody's name. My name is Onduko Yange Ame. Good morning is Utanya Ua, and good afternoon is Ekumbi Liwa. Good evening is Uteke Ua. Where are you from? Pi Ofeka Yove. I am from Ofeka Yange, Peke Lapo Chiwa. Goodbye. Or Ndanda. Literally means I went, I'm gone. It also means goodbye. Do you speak Umbundu? Ove of Angola Umbundu? I'm sorry. Nge chele or twechele. Please, ndinge ohenda. Literally it means give me mercy. Thank you is ndapandula or twapandula. And you're welcome is lachimwe. The personal pronouns are ame, ove, eye, etu, ene, and ovo. The pronominal prefixes are ndi, u, or wo, tu, vu, and va. These prefixes can be used as standalone words, meaning the verb to be in the present tense. For example, ame ndi u Congo. Ame is the pronoun I. Ndi is the first person prefix. U, am, serves as am there. U Congo is a hunter. Ove u ukai, you are a woman. The possessive personal morphemes are ange, ove, aye, etu, ene, avu. They are equivalent to my, your, his, our, their in English. Let's take a look at the verb, okumonla, which is a verb to see. Here we see it conjugated in the present tense, in the affirmative, and in the negative forms. Ndimona, ndimonla. Ndimonla. I see. Simone. Simonle. I don't see. Umonla. You see. Kumonle. Umonla. Kamone. Tumona. Katumonle. Vumonla. Komonle. Vamonla. Kavamonle. To say I see you, you use the ndi prefix to indicate that the subject is a first person subject, and the ku prefix to indicate that the object is a second person object, you. Ndi kumonla. Ndi kumonla means I see you. He sees us is utumonla. Tu indicates that the object of the verb is us, and u indicates that the subject, the performer of the action, is a third person singular, either he or she, because Umbundu does not distinguish gender Even in the pronouns, there is no she, there is no he. There is only one third person pronoun singular for both genders. Tu vamona, we see them. Tu indicates that the subject is us, is we see. Va indicates the object is them. Tu vamona, we see them. And vatu mola, therefore, means they see us. Near past tense, you have to use the prefix a between the person prefix and the verb itself. Ndamona, I see. Samonle, I don't see. Wamonla, you see. Kwamonle, you don't see. Observe that the verb in the negative typically changes its final vowel from a to e. The remote past is formed by a number of suffixes, ile, ele, or ine, or ene, depending on the verb. In the negative, it doesn't change. Ndamonene, I saw it in the more remote past. Samonene, I didn't see. Wamonene, you saw. Kwamonene, you didn't see, etc. Typically, verbs that contain the nasal consonants m and n received the suffix ene, ine. The other ones received ele, ile. Tala, talele. Ambata, ambatele. Feta, fetele. Kateka, katekele. Pola, polele. Loka, lokele. The future is formed by the prefix ka. Hamona, sikamone. I will see, I won't see. Okamona, you will see. Kukamone, you won't see. The subjunctive is made by changing the final vowel of the verb. Ndimona is I see. Ndimone is that I see. Simone is I don't see. Simone is that I don't see. The imperative can be made by adding the prefix ku for the negative and only using the verb's root without any prefixes or suffixes for the positive, affirmative imperative. Mola, see, look. Kumola, don't look, don't see. In the plural, you change the final vowel to e. Moni, look, talking to several people. Komoni, don't look, when you talk to several people. The irregular verb okuti is pretty much the only irregular verb in Umbundu. It only has the present and past affirmative tenses, but its prefixes are identical to the negative prefixes. So it's a sort of a negative verb that is used with a positive affirmative meaning. It's an abnormality in the Umbundu verbal system. It does not have any negative forms itself. So siti is I say. Hati is you say. Hati is also he says. Tuti is we say. Vati is they say. There is no second person plural form. In the past, there are only the second and third person singular. Hati, you said, and he said. And the first and second person plurals, tuati, we said, and voati, you said. As already mentioned, the Umbundu noun may belong to one of several genders. If you join together the plural genders with the singular genders, there are as many as 9 gender classes. Of course, given that most grammars consider the singular and the plurals as separate genders, many grammars say that Umbundu has actually 18 genders. So that's a bit deceptive because, for example, in European languages, you do not count the plural as a separate gender from the singular. So the masculine plural is not a separate gender from the masculine singular. But in the Bantu grammatical tradition, the singulars and plurals are typically counted as separate because in some languages the plural classes do not match exactly a specific singular classes or singular class or vice versa. Let's take a look at the Umbundu noun class system, the prefix system. Each class is characterized by its own typical prefix. So The first class is the class that typically includes only human beings, even though not all human beings belong to that class. Not all nouns describing human beings belong to the first class. Almost all nouns in that class are necessarily people. So the first class typically has the prefix omu in the singular and oma in the plural. Sometimes the prefix is u in the singular and a in the plural. The second class has omu and ami, or optionally u and ovi. The third class, e, a, isu, ova. The fourth class, that typically includes inanimate nouns, or sometimes even diminutives, or maybe even handicaps, has the prefixes ochi in the singular and ovi in the plural. The fifth class has o and olu. The sixth class has olu and olo. What do the classes mean? Beside the first class, what is the feature that is typically attributed to each class? It's in modern Bantu languages, the classes have been all shuffled about. The noun system has evolved beyond any clear meaning for these classes. It's pretty much as arbitrary as in most European languages. The class system no longer makes much sense, except that, as I said, first class is typically for humans, and the fourth class is typically for a number of inanimate or diminutive nouns. But other than that, it's very hard to tell what meaning is attributed to each class. Here are a few nouns that belong to class 1. For example, omunu, which is a person, a human being. In the plural, omano, people. Omuku is a rat, omaku is rats. So that's an example of something that is not a human being, but is there in the first class. Ulume is a man, alume are men. Ukai is a woman, akai are women. Uchime is a boss, achime are the bosses. Ukongo is a hunter, akongo are the hunters. Upika is a slave, apika are slaves. Class 2 typically includes, as in most Bantu languages, vegetation, plants, trees, a few natural items, very hard to say. Omusambi is a sweet potato, omisambi in the plural. Umunda is a mountain, ominda are mountains. Omwenda is sugarcane, omienda in the plural. Uti is a tree, oviti are trees. Ututa is a hole, ovituta are holes. Utima is your heart, ovitima are hearts. Musongo is an arrow, ovisongo are arrows. Upungu is a boat, ovipungu are boats. Upange, work, ovipange, works. Class 3, most books say that it includes large objects and parts of the body, as well as some abstract nouns. Difficult to say. Ekapa, potato. Ehondio, banana. Ahondio, bananas. Ekamba, friend. Akamba, friends. Ekandu, crime or sin. Akandu, crimes and sins. Etui, ear. Ovatui, ears. Ewe, a rock. Ovawe, rocks. Eu, tooth. Ovaio, teeth. Eka, hand. Ovaka, hands. The class 4 typically includes objects, utensils, tools, and a few animals and people as well. Ochitungu is a house. Ovitungu are houses. Ochikutu is a dress. Ovikuto are dresses. Ochina is a thing. Ovina are things. Ochifuko, hair. Ovifuko, hairs. Ochindele, white man. Ovindele are white men. Ochimbundu is a black man. Ovimbundu are black men. So that's what the name of the language comes from. No? The Ovimbundu are the people who speak Umbundu. Black man. Ochilanda, the present. Ovilanda, present. Ochikepa, a big bone. Ovikepa, big bones. Class 5, absolutely no meaning at all, completely arbitrary. Ongombe, an ox. Olongombe, the oxen. Ombambo, nail, fingernail. Olombambo, fingernails. Ondaka, word. Olondaka, words. Onjila, bird. Olonjila, birds. Opendo, a comb. Olompedo, the combs. Osambo, a curl. Olosambo, curls. Ombia, a cooking pot. Olombia, cooking pots. Class 6, according to grammars, it's supposed to describe extensions, extensive things that spread around, that occupy a lot of space. Olumbala is a current. Olombala are the currents. Olukangola is a rainbow. Olokangola are rainbows. Oluango, a summit of a mountain. Oloango are the summits. Olusi is a fish. Olosi are fishes. Olokata is an anvil. Olokata are anvils. Class 8 includes abstract nouns. This is a very common class in most Bantu languages. Most Bantu languages have something like the 8 class of Bantu and like it. Most languages in the Bantu group form abstract nouns by replacing whatever the word has, whatever prefix the word originally has, with a prefix that is u or o. That makes an abstract much like iti or hood in English, like enmity or felicity or friendship is from friend, or electricity is from electric. Typically that forms abstract nouns derived from adjectives and from certain nouns. Even in that case, Umbundu seems to be pretty arbitrary. Class 9 is the infinitive of the verb. The verbal infinitive in Umbundu always has the prefix oku. Infinitive can be used directly as a noun to describe the action of the noun, as a subject or an object of another verb. Sometimes a class can have a different meaning. The same noun, the same root can occur in different classes, and that changes the meaning. Okulova is a verb to fish. Ulovi is a fisherman, because it moved from the infinitive class to the human being class. Okwimba is to sing. Owimbi is a singer. Okukava is to be tired. Ekavo is exhaustion, tiredness, being tired, the state of being tired. Okutunga is to build. Ochitungu is a building. Okusola is to love. Ochisoli is love, the emotion, the feeling of love. Okulanda, to buy. Ondanda, observe that the L became a D because of a nasal prefix. Okulanda became not onlanda, but ondanda, is a purchase. Okukemba is to lie. Ohembi is a liar. Some class changes are less transparent, and basically maybe they are fruit of coincidence or some evolutionary distortion in the language. You have eteke, which is day, and uteke, which is night. That makes no sense. Eka, hand. Ochika is friendship, like a little hand, maybe something that goes hand in hand. People go hand in hand because they are friends. Opepe is a shoulder. Ochipepe is like a gust of wind. Maybe something because a gust of wind blows over your shoulder. It's anyone's guess. Ochibanda is a healer. Okambanda is a young slave. Go figure. So Umbundu, like most Bantu languages and almost all African languages, has no sex distinction in all of these genders, even though it has an abundance of genders vastly exceeding any European or even most Asian systems. It does not have a distinction between masculine and feminine, which is quite perplexing, to say the least. So the distinction between females and males in the human species and a few animal species are... that distinction is drawn by just separate words, much like what happens in English that has no grammatical gender anymore. So ulume is a man and ukai is a woman, as we've already seen. Ukwenjo is a boy, ufeko is a girl. Ongombe is an ox, ojindi is a cow. Oselenge is a goat, a male goat, and Ohomo is a female goat. Ekota is a brother. Omukai is a sister. Inano is an uncle, and Sohai is an aunt. tate is a dad, and mai is a mother. The adjectives have to receive the same ending as the class of the noun. There's a specific ending that goes to the adjective and to the verbs, as well as the determiners, such as this and that have to agree by receiving the appropriate class prefix of the noun that it's referring to. So the ox ate the herb is Ongombe yakulya owangu. Ongombe yakulya owangu. So we have a Ongombe, which is a class 5 noun in the singular. Its agreement prefixes for verbs is e. So akulya, which is to eat, becomes yakulya. It ate. And well, owangu doesn't agree with it because angu is a herb, and it's the object of the verb, so nothing is agree with it. Owangu is an 8 class noun, so the verb is agreeing with the subject. You can even put the verbs in the plural, that doesn't matter. What matters is that ongombe becomes olongombe, ox becomes oxen, and then the verb becomes vyakulya, because the class 5 plural prefix is v, no longer e and v. So yakulya becomes vyakulya. Yakulya is it ate, and vyakulya is they ate, as long as the subject is a 5th class noun. The possessive construction or genitive construction is made by the particle a, which is much like the Romance languages de preposition that's used very often in the Bantu languages, because Bantu languages have no nominal composition or derivation, and also there aren't that many adjectives. So typically, if you want to qualify a noun, you have to join a noun with another in a genitive possession. For example, the wife of, or the woman of the fisherman, the fisherman's woman. So woman is ukai and fisherman is ulovi. So ukai wa ulovi is the woman of the fisherman. The women of the fisherman, however, is akai a ulovi or akai vulovi, because the va prefix sometimes goes into the particle a, and that particle may even be absorbed by the following vowel. Like most Bantu languages, Umbundu does not have that many adjectives. Here's a few: nene, big; titu, small; wa, good; vi, bad; sovi, long; pia, young or new; and ale, old. Umunu unene, a large person; amanu vanene, large people; ulume utito, a small man; alume vatito, small man; ukai uvi, the bad or evil woman; akai vavi, the bad or evil women; umunda utito, a small mountain; ominda vitito, small mountains; upungu wale, old boat; ovipungu viale, old boats; ekapa litito, a small potato; akapa vatito, small potatoes; isu linene, a small eye; or vasu vanene, small eyes. So for most other adjectives, you actually have to take a stative verb that means the same meaning as the adjective you want to use, and use it with the noun. Okulola is to be strong. So ulume wakola is a strong man, a man of becoming strong, a man of being strong. That's the logic behind it. Okualunguka is to be cautious, to be careful. Ukai walunguka, therefore, is a cautious, careful woman. Okupepa is to be sweet. Epakolipepa is a sweet fruit. So you join basically the noun to the verb. First the noun, and then the verb, because the adjectives always follow the noun, much like in Romance languages or in Arabic. The qualifying noun comes after the main head noun. Okulungala is to be ferocious. Ochinyama chalungala, ferocious animal. Ochinyama chalungala, ferocious animal. Here are the numbers from 1 through 9. Until the number 5, they behave as adjectives. Following the noun, that they count and getting the agreement prefixes. Here are the numbers from 10 through 90. And here from 100 through 6,000. Here's a few indefinite pronouns. Mwe is some. Umwe is somebody. Chimwe is something. The chi prefix is a fifth class prefix that means an inanimate object. Pamwe is sometimes. The pa prefix is a locative or time prefix. La chimwe, nothing. La is a negative particle. Kumwe, somewhere. La kume, nowhere. Kwavo, another. Osi, oha, all, every. Chosi, choha, all, everything. Ongongo, each. Akui, vamwe, a few women, some women. Olongombe vikwavo, other oxen. Eteke liosi, the whole day. The question words are ni, nye, ndati, ndeti, for what? Elye, for who? Pi means where. Nyame means how much or how many. And e means what kind of. And in case of pi, pi is actually suffix to the verb usually, much like in Zulu. Walinga ni. Ni walinga. What did you do? So it's not mandatory to put the question word in the beginning of the sentence. Walinga ndati. What did you do? Here we see a construction with the where particle that goes suffix to the verb. Waendapi, where did you go? Waenda is you went. U is a prefix that indicates that the object, that the subject is the second person you. A is the past prefix. Enda is the verb to go, and pi is where. Waenda, you went. Waendapi, where did you go? Tunda is the verb to come. So watundapi is where did you come, literally, meaning where do you come from? Where do you come from? Watundapi. That pi particle can also be prefixed to the locative preposition ku or the locative li. So ombala kupi, where's the palace? Ongombe ilipi, where's the ox? Ele waloya. Okuloya is the verb to shoot. Ele waloya, who shot? Waloya ele. Who did he shoot? Wele, who is he? Ove ele, who are you? Olongombe vinyame, how many ox? Kofeka kene kuli amana vinyame. Kofeka kene kuli amana vanyame. How many people are there in our country? Ku o feka ku ene kuli. Ofeka wene is your country. Kofeka kene, in your country. Because the preposition ku merges with the ene. That is yours, in your. To indicate the negation, the negative of particles and verbs and sentences in Umbundu, you have to use the prefix ha, ka, maybe the suffix ko. There is no isolated word that can be described as no or not. So, kachineneko. Chineneko, chinene is a small thing. Kachineneko is, this is not small. Wa is good. Kawako is, he is not good or it's not good. The reflexive form of the verb is made by the prefix li. Okuveta is to hurt someone. Okuliveta is to hurt oneself. Okuteta is to cut something or someone. Okuliteta is to cut yourself, to get yourself cut, to get a cut. Ndaliteta, I cut myself. There are a number of other suffixes that come as suffixes, necessarily come after the verbal root. They are attached to the verbal root minus the vowel a. And they have a number of additional meanings to the verb. This is very typical of the Bantu language family. Any of you also familiarized with Zulu and Swahili will have already met many of these suffixes. Causative suffix, for example, okumona, is to see. Okomonisa is to make someone see. That's the causative suffix. To make someone see, okomonisa is therefore the verb to show. A passive suffix. Okukwata, to grab. Okukwatiwa, to be grabbed. An applicative suffix that makes the object of the verb have the meaning of to, for. Okulava, to wait. Okulavela, to wait for. Inversive, that inverts the meaning of the verb, like a negative invertive prefix, much like un in English, or dis, like, dislike, do, undo. Okukuta, to tie. Okukutula, to untie. Okuyila, to close. Okuyilula, to open. Okupenga, to bend. Okupengulula, to straighten. Okutunga, to do. Okutungulula, to undo. Now more about that prefix preposition ku, which means a place to where or a place from where. Waenda Kimbo, he went to the village. Observe that ku loses its vowel if it's followed by a word beginning in a vowel. So we don't have kuimbo, it's kimbo. Watunda kofeka, yeye, yaye. Watunda kofeka yaye, he came from his country. The prefix pa is another preposition that indicates to where and place in which. Mu and vu also indicate a fixed place without any motion. So wakala monjo, he stayed home. Wakala vimbo, he stayed in the village. Lu indicates with, or also maybe instrument, cause, means, or reason, much like the instrumental case in some Eastern European languages. Watila lusumba, he escaped out of fear. Weya leteke, he came during the day. Etu tuyungola okupopia losoma, we want to talk with the king. There are composite prepositions such as kilo, which means in the sky, in the sense of above, over. Kovasu, which means into the eye, on the eye, which also means therefore in front of, before. Konima means behind because it's in the back. Kovasu vange, in my front, in front of me. Konima yange, behind me. Kilo liomesa, on the table, above the table. Main conjunctions are nda, if. Nda otuveta tutile, if he hits us, we escape. Eche means when. Eche tupitila tukatunga, when we arrive, we will work. Mekonda means because. Relative sentences, we have Hena hasapula chi wandi sapulile osoma, tomorrow I'll tell what the king told me. Ulume ndaumonile unene, the man that I saw is big. Here are the most widely used adverbs. Palo ulo oku, here. Osamba, outside. Haima, always. Kalye, now. Handi, still. Etali, today. Hena, yesterday. Henanya, before yesterday. Alwa, a lot. Katitu, a little. Ale, yesteryear, in the old days. Quenda, except. Vo, also. Vo is a suffix, by the way. Vali, more, another time, again. Omo, si, and ewa mean yes. Sio can mean no as an isolated particle. Ndoto means this way, thus. Ndopo, already. You, then, after that. Echi, when. Ndati or poi mean actually or certainly. I hope you enjoyed this brief description of the Umbundu language, a language that unfortunately we don't find almost anything about all over the internet. My source was mainly a late 19th century grammar that was written on the Umbundu language by Portuguese and English explorers. There's an acute and absurd shortage of material on the Umbundu language, and if you want to contribute to my channel, you can make donations through PayPal and other means that are described below the under the video, but therefore the description used in this video may be a little outdated. If you are a native speaker of Umbundu, if you are a proficient speaker of Umbundu, please contact me, get in touch, and offer any corrections to this video, so I'll make, maybe in the future, in the near future, a better, more updated, more up-to-date video on the Umbundu language of Angola.